Question number 1. An accounting system that collects financial and operating data on the basis of underlying nature and extent of the cost driver. Without doubt, it's activity-based costing. Direct costing basically is also called variable costing, in which we only consider direct material, direct labor, and variable overhead as a part of product cost, which is same as variable costing. Whereas target costing is the cost that we would like to achieve. Let's say I want to sell a product for $100. That's my target selling price. I want to earn 20% of my selling price as my profit. That's my target profit. So that means I should be able to manufacture the product within $80. This is called target cost. So we got our answer. B is the right option. Generally, individual departmental rates rather than plant-wide rate for applying overhead would be used if the company's manufacturing operations are highly automated. If they're highly automated, similar type of products are made, then a single plant-wide rate is fine. A company's manufacturing operations are basically labor-based, even then a single plant-wide rate is fine. Manufacturing overhead is the largest cost component of the product cost. Even in situation C, plant-wide rate is fine. Why do we use individual department rates when your products move through different departments and they consume services and efforts in a different way? The manufactured products differ in the resources consumed from the individual departments in the plant, from department A to B to C to D. In this case, we should have a separate rate for department A, B, C, D. So that would make option D to be the correct option. Which of the following is true about activity-based costing? It should not be used with process or job order costing. Wrong. It can be used for job and process costing, both. It can only be used with process costing. Wrong. It can only be used with job costing. Wrong. It could be used either with process or job costing. That makes perfect sense. B is your right option. The benefit that management can expect from traditional costing includes which of the following? Traditional costing leads to a more competitive position by evaluating cost drivers. What are cost drivers? Costs associated with the complexity of the transaction rather than production volume. This is true for ABC, not the traditional costing system. Wrong. That's the feature of ABC. Traditional costing streamlines production processes by reducing non-value adding activities. Wrong. That is done by ABC. ABC identifies which activities are non-value adding, and they must be either eliminated or reduced. And what are non-value adding activities? Activities that do not add value with regard to customer, like reduced setup time, optimal plant layout, improved quality. So these costs are called non-value adding activities costs. So this is true for ABC, but not for the traditional system. C. As per the question, traditional costing provides management with more thorough understanding of product cost and product profitability for the strategy. This is wrong. This is true for ABC. This is not for traditional. All these ABC are for ABC, not for traditional costing. What about D? Traditional costing uses a common departmental or factory-wide measure of activity, such as direct labor hours or dollars, to distribute manufacturing overhead. That is true. That is very true. We use a rate based upon labor hour, machine hours, number of units, labor cost, prime cost, and we transfer or we apply this rate to the production. This is true in traditional costing, and right option. The steps that a company using traditional costing system would take to implement activity-based costing includes evaluation of the existing system to assess how well the system supports the objective of an activity-based costing. This is true. This will be considered, this would be taken up in setting up ABC. 2. Identification of activities for which cost information is needed, with differentiation between the activities between value adding and non-value adding. That is absolutely true. Both of these 1 and 2. So the step that a company using traditional costing would take to implement activity-based costing, both 1 and 2 will be taken in setting up ABC. For purposes of allocating joint costs to joint products, the sales value or the sales price at point of sale reduced by the cost to complete after split off is assumed to be equal to the relative sales value at split off. We discussed this in our overview. This is a fairly straightforward question requiring no further discussion. In activity-based costing system, ABC, cost reduction is accomplished by identifying and eliminating all cost drivers. That is a ridiculous option. No, not all cost driver, all non-value adding activities. So it's going to be no, yes. Cost drivers are the measures of activity that causes the cost to go up, right? Non-value adding activities are our target. Either they should be completely eliminated or they should be lowered to the lowest point possible. So we got our answer. C is the correct option. For purposes of allocating joint cost to joint products, the sales price at point of sale reduced by cost to complete after split off is assumed to be equal to the net sales value split off. We just did a little while ago. C is the straightforward answer. The costing method that is properly classified for both external and internal reporting purposes is as follows. Activity-based costing is acceptable for external reporting? No. For internal reporting, yes. This is a perfect combination. Let us discuss others as well. Job costing is fine for external reporting and fine for internal as well. So it should be yes, yes. But since it's no yes, that's why it's incorrect. Variable costing is not acceptable for external reporting under the US GAAP and the IFRS. So it's basically no. Acceptable for internal reporting purposes, yes. Process costing, yes, yes. So the only combination giving you the right arrangement is A. Okay. Limitations. Remember, we're looking for limitations. Limitations of an activity-based costing system includes which of the following? Control of overhead costs is enhanced. It is true, it's an advantage, not a limitation. Activity-based costing systems are less reliable. Wrong. They are more reliable for accurate costing, better pricing, better cost control. So this statement basically is wrong. It can't be limitation. This statement is wrong. The expense of obtaining cost data is relatively high. That's true. That's the limitation of activity-based costing. Setting up of ABC is quite expensive. Even once it is set up, the maintenance of ABC system is quite costly. So this is the right option. The expense of obtaining cost data is relatively high. What about D? It eliminates arbitrary assignment of overhead cost. That is true. It's an advantage. ABC helps you allocate cost more equitably, more fairly, rather than just going for an arbitrary allocation of cost, whatever you feel like. So that makes C to be the correct option. A manufacturing company has several product lines. Traditionally, it has allocated manufacturing overhead cost between product lines based on total machine hours for each product line. That was the allocation based previously. Okay. Under the new activity-based costing system, which of the following overhead cost would be most likely to have a new cost driver assigned to it? So total machine hour, they can be used as a driver for electricity expense, repair and maintenance expense. Even machine hours can serve as a driver for repair and maintenance expense. And even depreciation expense for machinery, we can use machine hour as a driver for depreciation expense. But employees benefit, this is something that would require a separate driver. Machine hours are not what drive the employees benefit expense. So this is the one where we would require a new driver. So which of the following overhead cost would be most likely to have a new cost driver assigned to it? Clearly, employees benefit expense, C. Our basic assumption of activity-based costing is that all manufacturing costs vary directly with units of production. This is wrong. Not all costs vary with the units of production, like fixed overhead. They don't move in line with the level of activity. Wrong. See, only costs that respond to unit level drivers are product cost. Wrong. There are 4 types of drivers. I'm sure you would remember: unit level, batch level, product sustaining, and facility sustaining. So they become part of product, not just a unit level activity. This is wrong. Only variable costs are included in activity cost pool. This is wrong. Fixed costs are also included in activity cost pool. So then what should be the right option? Products or services require the performance of activities, and these activities consume resources. That's the very basic of your ABC. That is the right option. Multiple or departmental overhead rates are considered preferable to a single or plant-wide overhead rate when various products are manufactured, that do not pass through the same departments or use the same manufacturing techniques. In this case, in such a situation, multiple or departmental overhead rates are recommended. Why not B? Cost drivers such as direct labor hours are the same over all the process. Then why do we need multiple or departmental overhead rates? Wrong. In this case, a single rate would be sufficient. Individual cost drivers cannot accurately be determined with respect to cause and effect relationship. Then it's better to use a single rate rather than multiple or departmental overhead rates. D. The single or plant-wide rate is related to several identified cost driver, and in that case, just a single rate would be sufficient. No need for multiple or departmental rates in case of D as well. So we got our option A to be the correct one. A CPA would recommend implementing an activity-based costing system under which of the following circumstances? The client is a single product manufacturer. If a single product is being made, then there is no point in using ABC. AB is recommended when there are a variety of products that consume resources differently. Most of the client's costs currently are classified as direct cost, direct material and direct labor. So if the manufacturing overhead are a smaller component of your cost, then there is no point or no significant benefit you might draw whilst implementing ABC. So this is not true as well. The client produce products that are heterogeneously consume resources. They consume resources differently. Some consume more resources, some less, some even more. So accordingly, the costing would be different. In this particular situation, ABC is highly recommended. What about D? The client produced many different products that homogeneously consume resources. Now, since the resources are consumed homogeneously, so a single rate would be sufficient. You don't need ABC in case of D as well. So, as I said, that C is the right option. Which of the following is not a basic approach to allocating cost for costing inventory in joint cost situations? Sales value at split off. This is one of the methods which we use to split our joint cost. Physical measures such as weights and volume. That is one of the methods we use to split our joint cost. Constant gross margin percentage, net realizable value. This is true as well. So A, C, D are the methods, but not D. Flexible budget is a totally different concept. Flexible budget's amount. So this is not the basis in which we allocate our joint costs. What is the normal effect on the number of cost pools and the allocation basis when the activity-based costing system replaces traditional costing? When we replace traditional with ABC, you should expect more cost pools, sometimes above 100. Yes, that is possible. And allocation basis would increase as well. So you will have more cost pools and you will have more allocation basis. Machine hours, number of parts handled, number of setups, etc. Could be many allocation bases and lots of cost pools. That makes D to be the correct option. In an activity-based costing system, what should be used to assign a department's manufacturing overhead cost to products produced in varying lot sizes? A single cause and effect relationship? No. Rather, we use multiple cause and effect relationship. That's what we have discussed in our overview lecture. Because of the changes that are occurring in the basic operations of many firms, all of the following represent trends in the way indirect costs are allocated, except using throughput time as an application base to increase awareness of the costs associated with the lengthened throughput time. This is a trend. We use throughput time as an application base. This is a trend. C. Using several machine cost pools to measure product cost on the basis of time in the machine hour in the machine center. This is the trend. Using cost drivers as application basis to increase the accuracy of reported product cost. This is the trend. What is not the trend, what has become history, preferring plant-wide application rates that are applied to machine hours rather than incurring the cost of detailed allocation. This is old, this is traditional approach, this is not the trend anymore. Hence our right answer. Which of the following non-value added costs associated with the manufactured work in process inventory is most significant. The cost of materials that cannot be traced to any individual product. Well, since this material cost cannot be traced to any individual product, so it is more likely uncontrollable, so it is not significant. The cost that you cannot control is not significant. Doesn't mean that it is less in amount, it's just that this is less controllable. The cost of labor that cannot be traced to any individual product, again, it is uncontrollable, hence it is less significant than the cost associated with the manufactured work in process. The cost of moving, handling, and storing any individual manufactured work in process is the cost that is significant and something that we can control, and of course it is non-value adding. Then the cost of additional resources consumed to produce any individual product. This is the description of incremental cost, variable cost per unit. Variable cost per unit remains fixed over a relevant range, so this is not controllable compared to the cost that we are discussing in option C. So option C is your right option. Activity-based costing refines product cost information because the cost system was designed to value inventory in the aggregate and not relate to the cost of information. This is true for traditional costing. This is not the feature of ABC. B. Uses a common departmental or factory-wide measure of activity such as the direct labor hours or dollars to distribute the manufacturing overhead to product. This is again true for the traditional costing. It is not a feature of ABC. ABC costing refines product cost information because the cost system emphasizes long-term product analysis. That is very true. ABC refines product cost information because the cost system focuses on long-term product analysis. Right? That is the correct option. Without doubt, this is the right option. And D. Causes managers who are aware of distortions in the traditional cost system to make intuitive, imprecise adjustments to the traditional cost information without understanding the complete impact. This is again true for your conventional traditional costing, not ABC. In allocating factory service department costs to producing departments, which of the following item would most likely be used as an activity base? Units of product sold. Well, this would be appropriate for sales department but not for the service department in the factory. This is incorrect. Salary of the service department employees. Wrong. This is the cost that we want to allocate. This is not the activity base. Units of electrical power consumed. That makes sense. That is true. This would be a good basis to determine the demand on the service departments. Production department demand on the service department. This is right option. This is correct. We can use units of electrical power consumed as a basis to allocate the service department cost on the production department. And lastly, the direct material usage. This is again incorrect because it doesn't always have a direct relationship to the increase of service department cost. So our right option is option C. The use of activity-based costing normally results in substantially greater unit cost for low volume products than is reported by traditional product. This is absolutely right. The units that are produced less in quantity, they will carry more unit cost than the traditional costing system. This is absolutely correct. Substantially lower, this is the total opposite to the above statement, hence wrong. Decreased setup costs being charged to low volume products, wrong. More setup costs being charged to low volume product. This would have made it correct. Equalizing the setup cost for all product lines. This is again incorrect. ABC does not equalize setup cost for all product lines. This is wrong as well. Each of the following should be considered in the selection of appropriate cost driver for an activity-based costing except degree of correlation. Yes, that is what we use in establishing the cause and effect. Cost of measurement, true. Behavioral effects, true. But volume-based production, this is wrong. That would be the basis for your traditional costing, but not for ABC, hence our right option. A cost that bears an observable and known relationship to a quantifiable activity base is called an engineered cost. A cost that can be expressed with mathematical precision through a mathematical equation is called an engineered cost. Indirect cost, on the other hand, is the cost that is not the direct cost, like direct material, direct labor, electricity, gas, water, depreciation, rent, property taxes, insurance. Target cost we already discussed. Target cost is equal to the target selling price less targeted profit, and the cost that you need to achieve is your target cost. And fixed cost is the cost that doesn't change with the level of activity. Mighty Incorporated processes chickens for distribution to major grocery chains. The two major products resulting from the production process are white breast meat and legs. Joint costs are $600,000 are incurred during the standard production run each month, which produce a total of 100,000 pounds of white breast meat and 50,000 pounds of legs. Each pound of white breast meat sells for $2 and each pound of legs sells for $1. If there are no further processing costs incurred after the split of point, what amount of joint cost would be allocated to the white breast meat on the relative sales value basis? So we have two items, white breast meat and we have legs. The physical quantities to be first considered. We have 100,000 pounds of white breast meat and 50,000 pounds of legs. The rate for white breast meat is $2. That means the sale value at split off is $200,000, and and the legs sell for $1. That is 50, right? So if you use the sale value at split off, it says if there is no further processing cost after the split off point, what amount of joint cost would be allocated to white breast meat on the relative sale value split off? So this is going to be the relative sale value proportion, 200,000 upon 250 multiplied by the joint cost, and 50,000 divided by 250 multiplied by the joint cost, which is $600,000. So simply plug in 600,000 for this part of the arrangement and you will get 480. So that would make D to be the correct option. A processing department produces joint products AJAC and BJAC, each of which incurs separable production costs after split off point of 8,000 and 22,000 respectively. The following details pertains to a batch produced at a $60,000 joint cost before the split off. Sales value of AJAC is 80, BJAC is 40. What is the joint cost assigned to AJAC if the costs are assigned using the relative net realizable value? How do we calculate NRV? It's very simple. Final selling price minus separable cost, that is $72,000 for AJAC and 40 less 20, $18,000 for BJAC. If you calculate the relative proportions, it's going to be 72 plus 18, 90. The proportion, the percentage, 72 by 90 represents 80% and 18 by 90 represents 20%. Now you need to allocate your joint costs. Joint cost allocated on the basis of NRV. 80% of 60,000 will give you 48,000 and 20% of 60,000 will give you 12,000. So what are we required to calculate? What is the joint cost assigned to AJAC? 48. C. Feline Fabrication produces two products, Meow, with joint production cost of $60,000. The company elects to use the NRV method to allocate the joint cost between 15,000 units of Me and 30,000 units of Ow. So let's write down the number of units we have. 15,000 Me and 13,000 Ow. Okay, now it says Me has a selling price of 4 and separable cost of 30. Okay, and Ow has a selling price of after further processing of $3, but when you need to spend $20,000 for separable cost. Let us first find out the final selling price, that is 60,000 for Me and 90,000 for Ow. That's the final selling price, and from this you need to deduct the further processing cost, which is given as $30,000 for Me and it's $20,000 for Ow. That means we have $30,000 NRV. This is NRV. Remember, NRV is the final selling price minus further processing cost to complete and sell. So it's 30,000 for me and 70,000 for Aw. If you convert them into percentage, that is 30% and 70%. And this is how you're going to allocate your joint cost. 30% of your joint cost goes to me, assigned to me, that is $18,000, and 70% of 60, that's 42. So look no further, you got your option. D to be the correct option, 1842. Sony Sawmill manufactures 2 lumber products from a joint milling process. The 2 products developed are mine support braces, MSB, and unseasoned commercial building lumber called CBL. A standard production run incurs joint cost of $300,000 and result in 60,000 units of MSB and 90,000 units of CBL, each sell for $2 and $4 respectively. That means the selling price is $120,000 for MSB and $360,000 for CBL. If there are no further processing costs incurred after the split of point, the amount of joint cost allocated to mine support braces MSB on relative sales value basis. So 120, 360 gives you a total of 480. 480, 120 is what percentage of 480? Or you can just simply use 120 by 480. That's the proportion for MSB, and 360 by 480. Simply multiply your joint cost of $300,000 with this fraction to get the joint cost assigned to CBL. 120 by 480 multiplied by $300,000, that will give you the joint cost assigned to MSB. It's very straightforward. 120 by 480 multiplied by 300,000, that gives you 75,000. 75,000 should be A. A is the right option. A company has 2 departments and allocates all overhead costs based on the department revenues. We have 2 departments, Department 1, Department 2. The revenue is 1 million for Department 1, 1.5 for Department 2. So the total revenue is 2.5 million. If 1 million is expressed as a percentage of 2.5 million, that will be 40%. And 1.5 million as a percentage of 2.5 million, it is 60%. So the total revenue generated by the company, 40% is generated by D1, 60% by D2. Now this is the total overheads, and it says that we need to allocate the overhead based upon the revenues, and we need to specifically find the amount, the company's total overhead that will be charged to Department 2. So just take 60% of this combined amount, 250, 175. If added, 250 plus 175, that's a total of 425. 60% of this will be allocated to D2 and 40% to D1. We just need to find for D2, it's going to be 255, and that makes B to be the correct option. And remaining 40%, 425 times 40%, 170, that would be allocated to Department D1. We got our answer, 255. New Rage Cosmetics has used traditional cost accounting system to apply quality control cost uniformly to all products at a rate of 14.5% of direct labor cost. This is how they have been applying the quality control cost historically under the traditional system. Monthly direct labor cost for satin sheen makeup is $27,500. So if you use the traditional basis, then how much quality control cost will be allocated to this product? Simply take 14.5% of $27,500. 14.5% of $27,500. That is $3,987.5. This is the quality control cost under the traditional cost allocations. Now, what we want to do in an attempt to more equitably distribute quality control costs, New Rage is considering activity-based costing. The monthly data shown in the chart below have been gathered for satin sheen makeup. This is the activity incoming materials, activity cost pool. Type of material inspection, this is the driver. And this is the rate. Cost rate is 11.5 per type. So if there were 12 types of material and the cost per type is 11.50, this will give you the cost that will be allocated to the quality cost under the incoming material inspection. So it's going to be 12 types were inspected at a cost of 11.5. That gives you $138. The next Activities in process inspection. This activity cost pool is driven by number of units. More units, more in process inspection, and the rate is 0.14 per unit. If there were 17,500 units of satin sheen and 17,500, and there were 0.14 cost per unit inspection in process inspection, 17,500 multiplied by 0.14 gives you 2,450. The third one is the product certification. This is the third cost pool, and this is driven by the number of orders, and it costs $77 per order to certify. If there were 25 orders, then the cost related to product certification would be 25 times 77. That gives you 1925. This is the cost of quality under the ABC 1382450 plus 1925. Gives you a total of 4513. If you compare this with this, you can see the ABC has resulted in a higher quality cost of 4513 less 3987.5 gives you $5 to $5.5. So it says that the monthly quality control cost assigned to satin sheen makeup using the activity based costing is 88.64 per order. Wrong, it's 77. 5 to 5 lower than cost using traditional costings. No, 5 to 5.5 higher than the cost using the traditional system, and that's why C is the right option. Okay, Sony Sawmill manufactures two lumber products. We discussed this question earlier, MSB and CBL. This is the joint cost to be allocated. Here it says that assuming no further processing cost is done after the split of point, the amount of joint cost allocated to commercial building lumber on physical quantity allocation basis. Physical quantity, we have 60,000 units of MSB and 90,000 units of CBL. So if you convert them into percentages, or more appropriately 60 plus 90 gives you 150. So 60 by 150 proportion of joint cost goes to MSB, and 90 by 150 of the proportion of joint cost goes to CBL. And this is your joint cost. And solve this part, you should get 90,000 by 150 multiplied by $300,000. That gives you 180. That makes B to be the correct option. A company manufactures two products, product X and Y, through a joint process. The joint cost is $500,000 for a standard production run that generates 240 units of X and 160,000 gallons of Y. 240,000 gallons of X and 160,000 gallons of Y, and that sells for 40 and 6.5 respectively. If there are no additional processing costs incurred after the split of point, what is the amount of joint cost for each production run based upon the physical quantity basis for particular product X? So this is the makeup. We have two items. The physical quantity is 240,000 gallons of X and 160,000 gallons of Y. And if you add these two, of course, it's going to be 400. So 240 by 400 and 160 by 400. That's how you allocate your joint cost. Joint cost is $500,000. So simply take proportion 240 by 400, multiply this with 500,000, and you should get your answer. It's a pretty straightforward question. The one similar to the previous one. 240 by 400 multiplied by $500,000. That gives you 300. That's D. D is the right option. Boyle Incorporated makes two products X and Y that requires allocation of indirect manufacturing cost. The following data was compiled by the accountant before making any allocation. Quantity produced of XY, direct manufacturing labor hours XY, setup hours XY. The total cost of setting up manufacturing process and equipment is $400,000 specifically for this. The company uses a job costing system with a single indirect cost rate. Under this system, allocated costs were $300,000 and $100,000 for X and Y respectively. If an activity-based system is used, what would be the allocated cost for each product? Now, there are a total of 2,000 setup hours, 500 by 2,000 and 1,500 by 2,000, representing 25% and 75% of your setup time. So take 25% of $400,000, that will give you $100,000 to be allocated on product X, and 75% of 400,000 is going to be $300,000 for product Y. So this is going to be a straightforward option A. LM Enterprises produces two products in a common production process, each of which is processed further after the split off point. Joint cost incurred for the current month is $36,000. The following information for the current month was also gathered: units produced for L, units sold, separable cost, and selling price, and the same data for product M. Assuming that LM Enterprises uses the estimated NRV value method to allocate costs, what amount would be the joint cost allocated to product M? First of all, we need to find the final selling price, which can be calculated by multiplying 10 with 8. That's going to be $80,000, the final selling price for L, and 5,000 multiplied by 20, that's going to be $100,000 for M. Now, from this final selling price, we need to deduct the further processing cost called the separable costs, 20,000 for L and 40,000 for M. So that will give us 60,000 NRV for L and 60,000 NRV for M. So if you take the proportions straightforward, 50%, 50%, which means 50% of the joint cost goes to L and 50% is assigned to M. So it's going to be a straight 50% of 36,000, 18,000. D. Next question. Zeta company is preparing its annual profit plan as a part of its analysis of the profitability of individual products. The controller estimates the amount of overhead that should be allocated to the individual product lines from the information given below. We have two items, wall mirrors and specialty windows. We want to produce 25 units wall mirrors and 25 specialty windows. Okay. Material moves per product line, 5 for specialty for wall mirrors and 15 for specialty window. Direct labor hours per unit 200 each. Budgeted material handling cost 50,000. Under activity based costing, the materials handling cost allocated to 1 unit of wall mirror would be. Now, if you want to use ABC, in that case, this cost pool of material handling should not be driven by labor hours, rather it should be driven by the number of material moves. How many moves do we expect? They're going to be 25 times 5, 125 moves for these 25 wall mirrors, and 25 times 15, 375 moves for specialty windows. So there is going to be a total number of 500 moves in producing both wall mirrors and specialty windows. Now, if you calculate the rate, it is going to be $100 per move. $100 per move. This is more appropriate allocation base rather than just using direct labor hours. Now, how many moves are there for wall mirror? 5 moves. So it should carry a cost of 5 times 100, 500. That makes B to be the correct option. Since specialty windows are difficult to make, they require 15 moves for each unit. That would mean 15 multiplied by 100, 1500. Now this makes perfect sense. An item that consumes less effort should be charged less cost. The item that is more complex to make should be charged more cost for material move. So we got an answer, wall mirrors 500. The New Wave company is considering a new method for allocating overheads to its two products, regular and premium coffee beans. Currently, New Wave is using the traditional method to allocate overheads, in which the cost driver is direct labor cost. However, it is interested in using two different drivers, machine hours for separating and roasting. Let's mark it. Machine hours for separating and roasting beans, and pounds of coffee for packing and shipping. Okay. Machine hours for the current month are 700 hours, and direct labor costs per pound of coffee bean is 1.25 direct labor, and direct materials cost per pound of coffee is $1.5. Okay. Now, there are 1,000 pounds of coffee packed and shipped for the current month, 500 of regular and 500 pounds for premium. The following data are also available. Overheads for the current month $5,000. Cost pool for separating roasting beans 3,500, to be split in this proportion 150 and 550, and the 1,500 cost pool of packing and shipping is to be split between 500 pounds of regular and 500 pounds of premium. So it's pretty straightforward. Let me do this for you. So what you're going to do, 150, 550, if added, gives you 700, right? So 150 by 700 goes to regular, and 550 by 700 proportion of 3500 goes to the premium. And we are interested in the premium one. What is the total cost per pound for the premium coffee using the new activity-based costing method? So 3500 multiplied by 550 divided by 700, that gives you $2750. This is the cost that goes to premium for separating and roasting beans, right? Then what about cost pool of packing and shipping? $1,500, and there are 1,000 pounds in total for regular and premium. Split them in equal parts of 750 each, so it's going to be 750 for the premium. So the total amount here we have 2750 plus 750, both for separating and roasting beans and packing and shipping. The total comes out to be $3,500, right? This is the cost of separating and roasting and packing for 500 pounds of premium. 500 pounds of premium, that gives you $7, right? Now, this is for separating and roasting and packing. What about the material and labor? This is for material, this is for labor. Add these two up as well, 1.25 for labor and 1.5 for material. Add all these up and you will get your answer. That is 9.75. 9.75 should be your answer. That's D. The total cost per pound of premium coffee is 9.75. D is the correct option. A company would most benefit from using an activity-based costing system as opposed to traditional costing system under which of the following conditions? When indirect costs are high percentage of total cost. Absolutely right. This is the ideal circumstances where ABC should be used. When each department within the company has a single activity rate, then there is no need for ABC. Use separate rate for each department. No need for going detailed cost allocations. When different products use the different activities of the department in the same proportion, no need of ABC. When batch level and product sustaining costs are immaterial, these are normally a major part of the production cost. When they are immaterial, there is no point in using ABC under the situation D. So we got our answer A. Sonimet sawmill manufactures two lumber products from a joint milling process. The two products developed are mine support braces, MSB, and the commercial building lumber. We discussed this question earlier. A standard production run incurs joint cost of $300,000 and results in 60,000 MSBs and 90,000 MSB CBLs. Each MSB sells for $2 and each CBL sells for $4. Assume the commercial building lumber is not marketable at split off but must be further planed and sized at a cost of $200,000 per production run. During this process, 10,000 units are unavoidably lost. These spoiled units have no discernible value. The remaining units of commercial building lumber are saleable at $10 per unit. The next item, the mine support braces MSB, although saleable immediately at the split off point, are coated with a tar-like preservative that cost $100,000 per production run. The braces are then sold for $5 each. If Sonimet sawmill chose not to process the mine support braces beyond the split off point, the contribution from the joint milling process would be. Now, each MSB sells for $2 at split off, but if processed further, it could be sold at $5. Which means the incremental revenue can be obtained for $3 per unit. How many units are we talking about? There are 60,000 units of MSB. So 3 into 60,000 gives you an incremental revenue of $180,000, right? And it will cost you $100,000 to coat the tar-like preservative. So 180,000 is the incremental revenue and 100,000 is the further processing cost. So if you decide not to process it further, you are giving up $80,000. You are giving up $80,000. So if you decide not to process it further, by not coating it with this item, you are losing $80,000. So your profit is going to be $80,000 lower if you decide not to process it further. Lankip company produces two main products and a byproduct out of a joint process. The ratio of output quantities to input quantities of direct material used in the joint process remains consistent from month to month. Lankip has employed the physical volume method to allocate joint production cost to the two main products. This is the first main product and this is the second main product. The net realizable value of the byproduct is used to reduce the joint production cost before the joint costs are allocated to the main products. What we do, whatever the byproduct NRV is, like in this case, this is your byproduct and it sells for $2, so we can get $120,000 by selling our byproduct. This NRV of the byproduct, or the sale value of byproduct, it is deducted from the joint cost, and whatever remains after deducting 120, that remaining part of joint cost is allocated between the first main product and the second main product, right? So that's exactly what it says. Now listen, the net realizable value of the byproduct 120 is used to reduce the joint production cost 2.52 million less 120, and the remaining joint cost is then allocated to the main product 1 and main product 2. Data regarding Lenkip's operations for the current month are presented in the chart below. During the month, Lenkip incurred joint production cost of 2.52 million. The main products are not marketable at the split-off point and thus have to be processed further. The amount of joint production cost that Lenkip would allocate to the second main product by using the physical volume method to allocate joint production cost would be. Now, first of all, this is your byproduct and this is its sale value. If you deduct this from your joint cost, you get 2.4 million of the remaining joint cost, which now must be split between the first main product and the second main product based upon the physical quantity basis. This is the physical quantity 90 and 150. 90, 150 if added gives you a total of 240. So 90,000 by 240,000 multiplied by 2.4 million. This is the joint cost that goes to first main product. Since we need to find for the second main product, so it's going to be 150,000 upon 240,000 multiplied by 2.4 million, and you will get your answer. I guess it's going to be B. Coat company manufactures a major product that gives rise to a byproduct called May. May's only separable cost is $1 selling cost when a unit is sold for $4. Code accounts for May sales by deducting $3 net amount from the cost of goods sold of the major product. There are no inventories. If Code were to change its method of accounting for May from a byproduct to a joint product, what would be the effect on Code's overall gross margin? See, this cost of $1 selling cost, it was deducted from your cost of goods sold. So if this product, which is a byproduct right now, if it is treated as a main product, then we will not be deducting this $1 selling cost. Rather, it will be considered as a selling cost after your gross profit. Overall net profit would remain the same. It's just that reversal of this $1 selling cost into the cost of goods sold will increase your gross margin by $1. So gross margin increases by $1 for each unit of May sold. Remember, the overall profit will remain the same. It's just that the selling cost, which was originally deducted from as an NRV from the cost of goods sold, it is now being reversed. So your gross margin would increase by $1. The overall profit would remain the same. So B is the right option.